Hello, beautiful souls, beautiful beings, beautiful humans. Welcome to another day. So, today, in part two of the sacred symbols of Mu, going to talk about the symbolism and the sacredness of the triangle. And this is important to understand because, we have our basic shapes. And with the basic shapes, it was the way for the brotherhood of the Noctals, the religion and the religious brotherhood to communicate this information to the people of Mu by using these simple symbols. And that's what I appreciate about this, because everything was so simple. Everything was, complicated. And if you knew how to interpret each individualized symbol, you then began to know the story that each group of symbols was being told. And today with the triangle, and I just want to read this verbatim so that way you guys can understand the importance of this. And so with the equilateral triangle, it has a dual significance. Dependent upon where and how it was used, its origins date back to solving a primitive man and the emergence of the three lands which formed the land Mu of the the lands of the West, if you will. And so with the lands of the West, it was a huge continental island. It was two small ones separated by one big one. So, if you go back into the middle of the Atlantic, you see, I'm sorry, the Pacific. If you go to the Pacific and you see all the way as far south as the oh geez, I can't think of what it's called right now, but the southernmost eastern space, which are why is it escaping me? I can't think of the name of the chain of the islands that's farthest to the south, but in between the Philippines and the chain of Hawaiian Islands, that has symbolized part of the rebirth of Mu. So the Easter Islands, all the islands that are surrounding that has some representation of Mu. So that way you guys have a context and geographical location of where the space was. And you guys can definitely go back to watch some of the interviews that I have, that I was a part of, to where I talk about Mu and the people and the significance of this original colony, this original land. And so we even go on to say that the Egyptian canals traditional say that the continent island was first emerged by two small ones and then subsequently emerged in two different periods. This explains the phenomenon of the three lands coming up at three different periods. So in the text, in the book of The Sacred Symbols of Mu by James Churchward, he also refers to this as the symbols of the land of Mu, where I just talked about, where there are three significant parts. The two outer edges were the ones that emerged first, and then the one that was emerged first are the two ends, and emerged in the middle was the main one, and is followed by the sun. But this depiction that I just showed you also represents the lands in darkness. And then there's also another depiction in this book where it shows the three lands in another way. So once you know what you're looking at, you can pretty much understand what it is that's being offered in the language. Because Mu also has a heretic alphabet. And in that heretic alphabet, it talks about the symbol of the circle that I talked about in part one. So we even go on to say that the equilateral triangle has three equal sides joined by one another, forming a single unbroken line without ends. So that's really important to know, because in the first one, the circle represented the deity, the infinite energy that is, and it's unbroken because it's a circle. And then the equilateral triangle is broken because there's no ending. It just is continuous, just like the circle, even though it's drawn in three separate lines. But you have to understand that the intent was it to appear unbroken. And so that go ahead to, uh, with the formation of this, it was also pointed out that the Creator raised all three lands and was separated by commands, and thus there were not three creators but one, apparently to make it more understandable for each one raised with a special, with a separate attribute at different times. And when you begin to combine the circle with the triangle, you get what is called a triune Godhead, which is this guy here. So with that triune Godhead, it represents the symbol of the Creator, and the Creator dwells in heaven, and the triangle must necessarily symbolize heaven, for where the Lord is and there is heaven. And so it symbolizes the, what I just said. And so it's in that space of interpretation that we sometimes get lost, of where heaven is and who is the Lord and who is God, and all these aspects. But if you pick up the books, you begin to understand the different levels, the symbolism, the culture, the people, and why things were as simple as they were then, as opposed to the way that we make it complicated now. And so you also see the depictions of the triangle in Egypt, in pyramids, and these structures in these spaces. And it is more so to do with the understanding that, so as I'm saying this, what's coming to me, if you guys understand how the pyramids were created, of course you have the equilateral sides, which is concaved a little bit, but then underneath you have the circle in the chamber underneath the pyramid, which is a circle containing liquid. And so also Godhead, triune Godhead energy. And so when you step into that, when you begin to understand the significance of, the placement of these shapes and the placement of the construction of the energies, and how what they were supposed to do and what they were meant to do, we then begin to understand the true nature of such structures, such as the pyramids, not just in Egypt, but all across the world. And so we begin to understand the significance of those. And if you guys want to know more and understand more, pick up the book, because I am still studying, reading, and acknowledging all of this information that has been around for eons. Till next time, beautiful ones, have an amazing day.